Everyone kind of has a surprise moment with something, where you put in a show just to kind of fill on time, but you end up realizing it's amazing and you get hooked on it. For me, that was Fruits Basket. Fruits Basket is a show I didn't really expect much from. I mean, I'm not really the type of person who likes romance or slice of life stories. Don't get me wrong, there are some that I really enjoy, but it's kind of a once in a blue moon sort of deal. 3 weeks later, I had finished the entire thing, and it was incredible. This is a series that uses stereotypes, and instead of subverting them, it plays with them and bends them to create multifaceted and memorable characters. I think this is most clear in our main characters, and specifically how they grow through the series. So today, I want to explore that, and see what makes these characters the way they are. Also, spoilers for the 2019 reboot of Fruits Basket. Obviously. Yuki is probably the most interesting character in the series, specifically on how he grows. At the start of the series, we see that Yuki is a perfect student. He's popular, he does well in school, he's very polite. When I first started the series, I actually really didn't think much of him, because he seemed like your average pretty boy for our protagonist to fall in love with. But that's just face value. We learn about his past with Akito and how he would stop talking and just stay in the corner. And although when we start the series, it looks like he's moved past that, he hasn't. He's still in the corner, trying not to rock the boat. Because he knows what will happen if he questions his place, if he tries to be anything other than what's been planned for him. His plan is to stay popular in school, but ultimately someone uninteresting, until he falls back with Akito and the other Zodiacs. But this changes with one thing: Tohru. Tohru and her relationship with Yuki is probably my favorite thing in the series, because, if we're being honest, Tohru is the first instance Yuki gets away from the Soma clan. Yuki has been living with the Somas his whole life. He doesn't know anything else. And although he follows the Somas, all he knows really is to follow the leader. That's when Tohru came around and actually started caring for Yuki. He immediately thinks of her as a mother figure. He thinks of her a leader outside of the Somas. And that's what makes their relationship so beautiful. Because instead of trying to keep him down and forcing him into something, Tohru encourages Yuki to go out and with new experiences. She encourages him to find someone that's equal to him. Something Yuki's never really had before. And he does. He gets closer with the other Somas his age, and more importantly, he joins the student council, the latter being a huge part of his character development. Because with people not related to the Somas, someone who he'd consider his equal, he's finally able to confront his feelings, his trauma. And instead of fear, he chooses to accept and acknowledge what happened. He acknowledges that it was cruel and it shouldn't have happened. But he also recognizes that he can either cower in fear because of that, or move on, live his life, find someone he loves, find friends, and just be happy to be alive. And it's honestly really endearing that this show would put a character like this on screen. Yeah, I'm getting emotional, but this is honestly one of the best decisions the show could have made. And, okay, I feel like this would have worked a bit better if they had made the vice president, Kakeguru, his love interest instead of Machi, because I feel like he had much more of a closer relationship with him, but, I don't want to start a shipping war or anything, so let's move on. Oh, Tohru, our beautiful ray of light. I'll be honest when I say that at the start of the series, I didn't really like Tohru that much. I know, how horrible of me to say, but At the start, I kind of found her personality to be too good to be true. And I couldn't believe that she was honestly this pure. But by season 2, she was one of my favorite characters. At the start of the series, Tohru is shown to be this bright and bubbly girl. Someone who lights up a room when she walks in, and someone who's always willing to help you out of any situation. The common trope of the anime girl pushovers. The writers didn't want to develop her, so they just made her perfect so the audience would like her. But that's not what they did. You see, when Tohru was little, after her father died, Tohru was put in a spot where she knew if she didn't act correctly, she would lose her mother, the only remaining person in her life. So, in order to combat this, she tried to imitate her father to the best of her abilities. She saw that who she wasn't keeping her mother around, so she decided to become someone else, someone that her mother loved. And this is not to say that Kyoko was a bad mother. She was indeed loving and caring to Tohru, and obviously grieved after Tohru's father died. But because of her grief, Tohru decided to put on this facade to keep her mother around. And throughout the years, she kept it up, even after Kyoko had recovered from Tohru's dad's death. Because in her mind, if she stopped, her mother would leave. And for a long time, Kyoko was Tohru's entire world. But then the unthinkable happens. Kyoko gets hit by a car and dies. And in order to prevent crumbling herself, Tohru starts to pretend that it didn't happen. And no, I'm not saying that Tohru straight up denies her mother's death. I'm saying that instead of acknowledging the problem, she keeps living about how her mother would have wanted her to. She lives how she thinks her mother would have wanted her to, and she acts like the same way. But this changes when she moves into the Somas. Because all of a sudden, her life isn't focused around her mother, but with Yuki, Kyo, and Shigure. And after living with them and developing relationships with the Somas, she realizes she wants to keep living her life with them. And the thought terrifies her. Her plan, of course, was to go through life the way her mother would have wanted her to, not with the Somas. So instead, she tries to help the Somas in any way she can, imitating how she thought her mother would have wanted her to act to keep the Somas safe. And while this allows the Somas to grow, she isn't given an opportunity for someone to help her out, except for one person, Kyo. Kyo helps Tohru out. He spends time with her, cares for her, and Tohru helps him. This lets Tohru grow because of Kyo, and eventually, Tohru realizes that she loves him. She wants him to be in her life. And to her, this is the first relationship that allows her to be selfish and gives her unconditional love. Because she realizes this, she's able to acknowledge her past and move forward not with the memory of what her mother would have wanted lingering over, but what she wants. She's able to forge something else for herself and move forward not with her mother, but with Kyo. Kyo is my other favorite character besides Tohru, and I feel like that's so basic of me to say. Yeah, I like the main characters, but every character in the show is written so well. What do you want me to do? In the beginning of the series, Kyo is shown as your typical tsundere. Always yelling, always getting into fights, being angry, kind of just your run-of-the-mill type. But, of course, it's not enough for Fruits Basket to have a character like that. We need to know why. We learn throughout the series about how unstable Kyo's life has been. He was actively cast out of the Zodiacs, and, through his point of view, his existence was such a problem that it caused her mother to kill herself. Kyo has been told since day one that his existence is a problem. And how does he react to this? He lashes out. He tries to push people away before they can realize how worthless he is. And the only person who's really ever cared about Kyo, according to him, was Kazuma. Without Kazuma, Kyo would have probably gone off the deep end and thought that there was really no way he should exist. And for a while, this is how Kyo reacts, pushing everyone away except for Kazuma. But it changes once he meets Kyoko, someone he isn't able to push away. And because of that, Kyo develops a relationship with Kyoko, which is why when he lets her down, it's such a huge downfall for him, because it affirms that from his point of view, there is no point to his existence if he can't help someone. So instead of believing that, Kyo knows the only thing that he can do. He lashes out and blames the entire thing on Yuki. And when Kyoko tells him it's okay, but Yuki's still a good person, Kyo pushes her away and runs. And when he sees Kyoko years later, he still isn't able to help her and runs away, confirming to himself that he really is good for nothing, and his inability to do anything has actually came at the cost of someone's life. He probably would have given up if it wasn't for Kazuma, who tried to get Kyo to start living again. And Kyo, in order to prevent crumbling, does the only thing he knows. He blames Yuki. And at the start of the series, this is the mentality that Kyo acts upon. But there was one thing that Kyo didn't expect. Tohru. Like Kyoko, Tohru isn't someone that Kyo is able to push away. Even in his darkest moments, Tohru stays. And eventually, Kyo lets his guard down and develops a genuine relationship with Tohru. And it gets to the point where he falls in love with her. He wants to help her the way that she helped him. But then, the world reminds Kyo that he is in fact a monster. But to him, that doesn't seem as alarming because now he has someone to help him with it. Eventually, through Tohru, Kyo acknowledges his past too and starts to shed his defensive personality. But there's something Kyo's been avoiding, Kyoko. And when he's finally confronted about it, despite everything, he lashes out. He runs away. And when he comes back, he's come to see that Tohru's fallen off a cliff. And he has to face the fact that he is in fact worthless. But instead of falling into a depression, Kyo comes back. He comes back and acknowledges that he's made mistakes, but also realizes that he isn't worthless because people love him. Kazuma loves him. Tohru loves him. And it's even if he isn't exactly human, the fact is still easier to bear because there's someone there with you. Someone who won't leave. Someone who will help you as much as you help them. And it's one of the most beautiful things in the series. To see so many people with such different personalities come to terms with their grief and become better people because they acknowledge it. And they're able to acknowledge it because they develop relationships with each other. And those are the main characters of Fruits Basket. To be honest, I could probably dedicate an hour-long video essay to each of these characters, but you know what? That would be tiring, and I can settle for this. And I think I got what I wanted to say on these three characters out enough. But this still isn't even including all the other characters. Maybe someday I'll make a follow-up video to this one. Who knows? Well, I'm pretty tired. So, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope you come back to see what I do next time. Bye!